Hello and welcome to another episode of BikeRadar Diaries, which is all about what we like to get up to here at BikeRadar. This week, Felix is back from a pretty amazing race in Iceland and he's going to tell us all about it.
I was lucky enough to be invited by Lauf to the Rift gravel race. So the route's about 200 kilometres long and it follows the continental rift between two tectonic plates. So yeah, expecting lots of volcanic activity and some pretty crazy scenery. There's about 2,000 metres of climbing throughout the ride, which isn't a crazy amount, but it's all pretty much in the first 75 kilometres.
So it's like a mountainous start and then a kind of a flatter, faster finish. And
crucially, there's 4 checkpoints throughout the route, so they kind of help you out with mechanicals and food and things like that.
And I'm right in saying that this is your first ever proper gravel race, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, pretty much going into the deep end with this one.
First time in Iceland?
First time in Iceland. So yeah, it's a bit of a string of firsts for me.
But you're not new to kind of long distance events, are you? Because you did the Transatlantic Way earlier on in the year and there's a link to that video in the video description. But enough of our chat, let's find out how you got on during the race.
Here we go. The race started with an 8-kilometre road section just before we got onto the gravel. I was definitely nervous, so I kind of slid towards the back of the group just because I felt a bit more comfortable there.
So you weren't bashing it up at the front, basically?
I wasn't really, no. Although it was quite fun to kind of imagine me doing that.
And then once you'd done the road, you kind of hit that first section of gravel.
That's right, yeah. That's when it really sort of dawned on me the scale of what was to come. Absolutely goosed.
And as you've already told me, you had a mechanical pretty early on, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. I had to admit that about 20 minutes into the gravel section, I started to hear a bit of a clunking noise and realised it was the cassette lock ring that had come loose. I managed to limp to the first checkpoint where they had all the tools and things to fix it. So I spent a good 10 minutes or so fixing that and then getting a bite to eat before hitting the next section. And
the bike you're riding is your Lauf Anywhere, so it's your fault the cassette was loose.
It's true, yeah, I admit that one. That was terrible.
As you can imagine, riding in Iceland, the scenery is amazing. So can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible country. It felt more like I was travelling to a different planet.
This place is absolutely mad. It's riding through some really cool places now.
Yeah, huge volcanoes. The rock was really black and then you had this amazing green moss next to it. It was just incredible scenery, yeah, really cool place.
So about 65 kilometres into the race and approaching the highest point, and it suddenly got noticeably warmer and the smell of sulphur in the air. So yeah, that's just a little reminder that you're actually riding around volcanoes right now.
There was also some river crossings, and how did you get on with those?
Initially they were quite intimidating because you had this long stretch of river in front of you and you had to negotiate the right way through. Quite a nice little bit of information I gathered from Lauf, and they suggested I ride through where you can just see a little ripple on the edge of the surface. So go for that bit, that's the easiest route through. The gravel sort of comes up towards the surface, so you've got a bit more traction. And also super high cadence to try and keep your speed throughout it.
How cold was the water?
Absolutely freezing, yeah. I think the glacier was just like 10 miles up the road.
And what was the weather like throughout the event? Obviously your feet were cold from the river crossing.
Yeah, so the weather was really changeable.
A bit of a headwind here, coming straight in.
I wore everything you could possibly imagine: raincoats, arm warmers, leg warmers, and then wool socks, which was a recommendation.
His socks were woolly like his beautiful red hair. And just before the third checkpoint, there was a pretty nasty bit of kind of washboard gravel road.
Last hour has just been pretty much just ascending, but not fast, just over really harsh, like washboardy bumps in the gravel. I feel really beaten up. My arms and everything's just really dead.
So by the time you got to the third checkpoint, a welcome rest, a bite to eat, and then you're on to the kind of last leg of the race.
Yes, so I got told by Marshall that the next stage after checkpoint 3 was quite a lot of road, so I was quite happy about that. Make some ground up, and yeah, I was feeling pretty good at that point.
So just refueled at the 3rd checkpoint, hoping to give it some beans.
How far did you have to go after the 3rd checkpoint?
Well, this is it. In my head, I thought I was close to the end, but I still had half the distance to go.
There's still 100 kilometres left.
Still 100 kilometres left,
Oh,
yeah.
Felix. And what was that last 100k like?
I had a group of riders come past me pretty fast. I thought, why not just catch onto the back wheel, see what happens. But I think I lasted about 10 minutes and then just realised I was going to bonk any minute.
Spat out the back.
That's right, yeah.
Almost there. I'm cooked.
I narrowly avoided a little crash. I think it was at that moment that I realised I need to chill out a bit and try and get to the finish, because that was my main goal.
Then at 170 kilometres, so well over 100 miles by then, you got to your last checkpoint, checkpoint 4.
Yeah, I felt like I'd just about got there, really. I was really, really tired by that point.
Just reached checkpoint 4. Absolutely goosed. Just filled myself with sandwiches and filled my water up again. And now got about just over 30k to the finish. So home straight now.
So yeah, I was back on the road and I was feeling quite good.
Yeah, so it's that kind of, when you've got maybe 30 kilometres to go, quite often you get a bit of a spurt of energy, don't you?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. End was in sight. And I met a couple and we sort of rode together for a little bit.
Whoa, there you go.
But then coming into the last river crossing, I overtook and thought, why not see if I can beat these 2 riders.
Woo! And we're back on the road. About 8 kilometres to the finish now.
Needless to say, they came flying past me as we got onto the road section. At that point, I got on their back wheel and rode with them to the finish.
Hey. Thank you very much.
And what time did you finish in?
It took me 12 hours to complete the race, so I was pretty much at the back, but I was really happy to have finished. You can imagine by that point I was pretty hungry, ready for a beer to celebrate.
Obviously you were pretty knackered at the end as well.
Oh yeah. I didn't realise how much riding on gravel would just sort of knacker you out. Not just your legs, it was the whole body. It was just so tired. I was holding on most of the time.
So more press-ups needed for Felix in future.
Lots more.
And can you tell us a bit more about kind of the setup of your bike? What tyres did you use? What pressures did you run them at?
I was riding the Lauf Anywhere, which is their rigid gravel bike. So to sort of combat some of the harshness of the ride, I used 40C WTV Nano tyres, which I set up tubeless, and I ran those tyres at about 35 PSI.
Oh, this is steep.
Absolutely no punctures. I was really worried about that. Yeah, so I didn't bring any spare tyres, but I did bring 3 inner tubes, which I didn't need in the end.
Wasted weight.
Oh, that was fun. That was really good.
In the end, your first gravel race, did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
So there we go, that was my first gravel race finished. Oh, I managed to get there just about, probably the hardest thing I've ever done on a bike. The whole thing was just incredible. The scenery, the riding, the descents were so much fun.
I couldn't have picked a more epic country, and to have experienced it in a race sort of format, it was really special. Even though the scenery was mostly like this, double vision because of all the harsh gravel, but it was still a really cool experience. Yeah.
And if you could, would you go back next year?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'd probably check the bike out a little bit more before the race, but yeah, I'd love to do it again and maybe even try and be a bit more competitive. You never know.
But he finished, and that's all that matters.
Whee.
So that was Felix's Icelandic gravel adventure. If you've got any questions for him, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and do not forget to click the little bell button so every time we upload a video, you get a notification. Bye!
Bye.